Welcome to ESR Technology's Introduction to Frequency Determination, which is part of our Understanding Major Accident Hazard series. In this video, we'll be looking at what we understand by frequency and probability, why we need to and how we determine frequencies, and how this links to risk assessment and the tolerability of risk. The purpose of frequency analysis is to estimate the likelihood of each of the undesired events or accident scenarios identified at the hazard identification and scenario definition stages. This module will introduce a number of terms relevant to frequency determination and will consider the use of the various measures within the context of major hazards management. Risk is commonly described as the product of frequency and consequence. Both frequency and consequence analysis inherently include consideration of likelihood, the likelihood of a hazard being released, and the likelihood, typically expressed as a probability, of an undesired consequence. For example, the probability of escalation of a major accident hazard, as occurred during the Piper Alpha disaster, or the probability of a major oil spill incident, as occurred during the Macondo disaster in the Gulf of Mexico. Without estimating likelihood in some form, we cannot estimate risk, and without estimating risk, we cannot determine the acceptability of major hazard management measures in place or proposed. There are two basic approaches which are commonly employed in trying to estimate event frequencies. These are using relevant historical data and synthesizing event frequencies using techniques such as fault tree analysis and event tree analysis. Examples of historical data include the UK Health and Safety Executive's hydrocarbon release database, which ESR has a long history of involvement with, and other sources such as ARIDA and PARLOC, which are compiled from analysis of years of operational data. Fault tree analysis is a technique by which many events that interact can be related using simple logical relationships to determine from event frequencies and probabilities the frequency of an undesired top event, such as how failed equipment under particular circumstances can lead to a loss of containment. This top event can then be used as the starting point for an event tree, which is the converse of a fault tree. From an initiating event, such as loss of containment, probabilities such as ignition or mitigation can be considered to determine the frequency of harm or risk. Risk is an extension of frequency determination and is a combination of the probability of a hazard being realized and the consequences causing harm. Risk levels can be expressed in many ways, but two common metrics are individual risk, which is the frequency at which an individual may be expected to sustain a given level of harm from a specified hazard, and societal risk, which is the number of people expected to suffer a specified level of harm from a number of specific hazards. Many aspects of risk acceptance criteria are often held to be contentious, as they inevitably involve perception, benefit, and value judgments. The balancing of these views has led to different tolerable risk criteria being applied to different industries and countries. There are no globally accepted risk criteria. In the UK, and in many other countries where risk assessment is in common use, an additional concept of reducing risk to as low as reasonably practicable, or a LARP, is used. This requires whoever controls work activity to do whatever is reasonably practicable to reduce risk, unless the cost of reducing a risk is grossly disproportionate to the benefit. Preparing a LARP demonstrations and their associated cost-benefit analyses is something of an art, requiring understanding of the regulator's viewpoint and practical experience of what is possible in terms of risk reduction. ESR Technology has been developing training programs for over 20 years. All of our training is delivered by experts based on their operational and regulatory experience, and we are able to offer first-hand experience of state-of-the-art tools and techniques at a level to meet your training requirements. Training is available as full courses or individual training modules, modular live webinars, or on-demand tutorials. For further information, please visit our website or contact Terry Atkinson at esrtechnology.com.